Anna had never lived alone before. Her new apartment was small, but it was hers. A single bed, a desk by the window, peeling wallpaper in muted yellow. Cheap, a little run down, but quiet. She told herself it was perfect. The first night she noticed it. Not the creak of the floorboards, not the dripping pipes. Something else. The feeling of being watched. As she lay in bed scrolling on her phone, her eyes kept drifting to the far corner of the room, the one swallowed in shadows. For a moment, she thought she saw something, an outline, broad shoulders, a head tilted slightly forward. Her stomach tightened. She blinked, forced a laugh. "It's just my imagination." She pulled the covers tighter and rolled onto her side, facing away from the corner. But she didn't sleep well that night. Over the next week, the feeling grew. Every night it was the same. As soon as she turned off the lights, the shadows in that corner seemed thicker, heavier, almost solid. And every time she glanced, she thought she saw him. A man standing perfectly still, watching. Anna told herself it was stress, that she was adjusting to life alone, but the unease gnawed at her until she couldn't ignore it. One night, she set up her laptop camera on the desk, pointing it directly at the corner. She whispered nervously, half joking, "Let's see if you're real." Then she crawled into bed, heart racing, and forced her eyes shut. At 3:14 a.m., Anna awoke with a start. The room was freezing. Her chest felt heavy, like something invisible was pressing her down. She tried to move, but her limbs wouldn't obey. Sleep paralysis. And then she heard it. A soft creak of floorboards, footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving from the corner toward her bed. Her eyes darted frantically beneath closed lids. She wanted to scream, but her throat was locked. The steps stopped right beside her. She felt breath, icy and damp, against her cheek. She squeezed her eyes shut, tears spilling, her heart hammering so hard she thought it would stop. She counted in her head, 1, 2, 3, and then silence. When morning came, she bolted upright, drenched in sweat. The room was empty. Her laptop was still recording. Hands trembling, she pressed play. The footage showed her sleeping. At 2:59 a.m., the corner shifted. Shadows thickened, darker than the rest of the room. And then he appeared. A man, tall, thin, motionless. His face blurred as if the camera couldn't focus on him, but his head was turned directly toward her, watching. For hours he didn't move, until 3:14, when he stepped forward, one step, then another. He walked to the edge of her bed and leaned down.
The screen flickered, static ripping across the footage. When the video cleared, the corner was empty again. Anna moved out that very day. She never went back for her things, but sometimes when she closes her eyes at night, she still feels it, the weight of a gaze from the dark corner of her room. And deep inside, she knows he's still there, waiting.
Mark was the last one in the office that night. The others had gone home hours ago, leaving only the buzz of fluorescent lights and the hum of the air conditioner. His desk lamp glowed weakly, stacks of papers spread across the table. It was 11:47 p.m. when the sound broke the silence. Ring, ring. The office phone on the corner of his desk lit up. Mark frowned. No one should be calling this late. Still, he picked it up. Hello? At first, nothing. Then a whisper, too soft to understand. Who is this? Mark asked, forcing a laugh. He thought it was a prank, but the whisper came again, closer this time. And this time, it said his name. Mark. His blood ran cold. He slammed the phone down, sat frozen. The room felt smaller, the shadows deeper. He shook his head, telling himself it was stress. But the next night, it happened again. And again, always late at night. Always the same faint whisper. Then, on the fifth night, the whisper changed. Mark picked up the phone with shaking hands. The line hissed with static. And then, clear as day, the voice spoke. Turn around. Mark froze, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, against every instinct, he turned. The chair at the desk behind him moved, just slightly. It rocked once, back and forth, as if someone had just stood up from it, but the desk was empty. He ran out of the office that night. For a while he avoided staying late, but deadlines piled up. He had no choice. One night, as the clock struck 3:15 a.m., the phone rang again. Mark was ready. He had set up a small tape recorder beside the receiver. With trembling fingers, he pressed record and lifted the handset. Static filled his ears. Then the whisper came. Mark. He clenched his jaw. What do you want? He whispered back. There was a pause, and then the voice hissed. I'm already here. The lights flickered. The tape recorder hissed louder. Mark spun around, heart racing.
The chair behind him was empty, but the tape kept recording. In the morning, when Mark played it back, his blood froze. The tape caught his voice clearly, and beneath it, another voice, a low, guttural whisper. "I'm right behind you." Mark quit the job the very next day, but sometimes when his phone rings late at night, he refuses to answer, because he knows it's not always a wrong number.
The house was old. Its wooden beams groaned with every gust of wind. When the Carter family bought it, they were told it came with history. But the price was right, and they wanted a fresh start. There was just one thing. At the end of the upstairs hallway stood a door, a small, faded wooden door with an iron handle, and it was locked. The real estate agent smiled too quickly when Mrs. Carter asked about it. "Oh, that room hasn't been opened in years. Best to just leave it." For weeks, they ignored it. They unpacked boxes, painted walls, filled the air with the smell of new dinners and new laughter. But every night at 2:59 a.m., they heard it. A faint humming. A child's voice, singing. It drifted from behind the locked door. At first, they thought it was the neighbors, but the song was too clear. And when they pressed their ears to the door, the humming stopped. One evening, as the children played downstairs, Mr. Carter tried the handle again. Locked, solid. He pressed farther, still locked. But that night, the family awoke to the sound of the door creaking open by itself. Inside, the room was dusty, filled with broken toys and a small iron bed frame. A single porcelain doll sat upright in the corner, its cracked face smiling. The humming began again, louder now, but there was no one in the room. Mrs. Carter hurried the children downstairs, but the parents stayed. They had to know. They set up a camera facing the door. That night, the house felt heavy. At 3 a.m. sharp, the door burst open with a bang. The camera caught something rushing out, a shadow, small and quick, darting across the hallway. Seconds later, the sound of tiny feet pounded the stairs. The children screamed from their bedroom. Mr. Carter ran only to see a blur vanish into the darkness. The door slammed shut behind him. The next morning, they reviewed the footage. There was no blur, no shadow, only the door slowly opening and the porcelain doll turning its head toward the camera. The Carters left the house that same day, And when the movers arrived later, they found the upstairs door locked again. The doll was back in its place, and the humming never stopped.